Almost time for some clean old-fashioned hate. And this year's installment is one of the biggest in a generation. So let's get ready with a fan's countdown to hate presented by Ken Nugent and Georgia Heart Institute.
All right, so let's start with the year 2014. As in, not since 2014 have Georgia Tech and Georgia played each other when both teams came into the matchup with 9 wins. 1942, Chris, the only other year when that happened. And yes, Tech has 9 wins, but yes, everybody is still in a malaise after what happened on Saturday night against Pittsburgh.
Well, it was the kick in the pants that nobody's really sort of recovered from. Now, I'm not telling you they haven't recovered down the street and they're not practicing hard and doing all that other stuff. But yeah, I was in that building early Saturday night. I was saying, okay, right down the road at Mercedes-Benz, you want to have it hopped up? Just find a way to win this game tonight. And they didn't. So while the game still means what it means, and remember, here's the thing that Tech fans, whether it's a reality or not, we beat them, they lose the SEC championship game, they have to fight to make sure that they stay in. So you want to win this game for about 52 different reasons if you're both teams, but there is at least something still on the line. And what's on the line is the bragging rights for a year, which is the most important thing, until something more important happens where you get a chance to hopefully or helpfully destroy somebody's season. That's what it is.
You're going to have to score a lot of points. Based on the way this Tech defense has, or over the last 3 weeks, more importantly, has not played, you're going to have to score a lot of points. Tech has allowed 41.3 points, over 510 yards per game over the last 3 outings. They're 1-2. Kirby, is this an advantage? He was asked about this yesterday during his presser, which you can hear live, and it's up at the Fan app and 680thefan.com. He's going to be seeing Haynes King and Buster Faulkner for a third time. Will it make a difference?
I wouldn't say sense of comfort. I mean, nothing's comfortable about defending an offense that can hurt you in so many ways. First of all, Buster does an incredible job. He did here, too. He's a really good football coach. He knows where all the nuggets are on defenses. He knows how to attack them. He knows answers for things that when you do them. I mean, at the end of the day, they got to block, we got to tackle, and somebody's got to do it better. And that's a very tough thing when you play them because they stretch you horizontally, they stretch you vertically, they stretch you with tempo, they stretch you with numbers counts because of their quarterback. So Buster does an awesome job, and that's continued this year. So there's no level of comfort dealing with it. It's more of a how do you inspire your players to play harder.
I think if you're old enough, you remember CBS, Jimmy the Greek, take the problems out of it. When that show started on CBS, he had this line down the middle of a board, and he would have 6 categories or 5 categories, and he would say, who has the advantage? Well, I'm going to tell you, Georgia has the advantage in maybe the most important one. Who do you trust more? Who's done it more often?
I believe that was the intangibles.
Yeah.
And that applies to what you're talking about.
Right. And especially coming off Saturday against Pitt. It doesn't mean you can't get fired up. Doesn't mean you can't play the game you played last year where you go nose to nose, stand in the middle of the ring with them. But at the end of the day, I've watched Georgia win more important games by a lot than Georgia Tech. And, the argument still is, which real important game has Georgia Tech won in a long time? So, yeah, if you're going to do that last box, check it on Georgia's side. And until somebody proves them incapable of having that big moment when they need to be, that's where that check is going to stay.
And Georgia is riding a 7-game winning streak against Georgia Tech. Now, it was blowout city for a while, and since Key took over, as in Brent Key, it's been an 11-point margin of victory. Prior to that, it was 41-16. So they're closing the gap. We know about 8 overtimes last year. The past 2 meetings, in fact, Chris, have been decided by a total of 10 points. But what does it really mean going into this game? It probably doesn't mean anything.
I trust Georgia more if it comes down to that type of game to win. Tech has to prove me wrong or the college football world wrong, the 2-touchdown underdog thing wrong. But, yeah, Georgia is the favorite for a number of reasons. They're more talented. I mean, that's a given. The thing that you have going for you if you're Tech is you can score. You really can. You can score kind of from all over the field. The problem now is Nate Frazier looks like he's ready to play better football. Georgia Tech maybe, beginning of the year before Nate Frazier really became the guy that he was supposed to become, this might have been a little bit of a different game in that regard.
And we got this covered like nobody else. The Fan special coverage of Clean Old Fashioned Hate brought to you by attorney Ken Nugent, Georgia Heart Institute, Georgia Power. and Georgia's own credit union. Brent Key joined us yesterday. If you missed it, it's at the Fan app and 680thefan.com. And during the conversation, he offered his early thoughts on the Dogs.
Yeah, they've improved a lot as the season's going on. Defensively, I won't say the same thing they've always done. They're always going to tweak things to what their personnel is. They're stout against the run. They got good guys in the back end that close to the ball. There's 2, 3, 4 hats around the ball every time. They transition well. They play with their eyes. They read their indicators. Defensively, I think they're doing a nice job offensively of spreading the ball around, mixing in run and pass, and keeping people honest and doing enough window dress and eye candy to keep you off and keep your eyes out of place.
No, it's not exactly anything earth-shattering because we've talked about it. For all of the talk about the Tech defense and the challenges they're going to have, this offense led by Buster Faulkner, you don't score in the red zone. It happened against Pitt. You got burned. You don't score in the red zone against Georgia, much like Pitt, you're not going to win. You have to score touchdowns in the red zone. Field goals aren't going to get it done against Georgia.
It's going to be interesting to see how you play it then, let's just say in the middle of the first quarter. Do you kick a field goal? Or do you have a possibility of going, it's 4th and 2? Probably going to need the touchdowns. Now, I watched teams chase points all day. I watched the New Orleans Saints. Bad team, but they left points all over the floor. And at 16-10, you go, this really might not have been or should not have been a 16-10 game for the Atlanta Falcons. But you decided you missed 2 field goals. You decided to try it a couple of extra times. You had Taysom Hill. All of a sudden you said, well, he'll fix us or he'll lead us home, and when that doesn't work, what's going to happen? Well, the New Orleans Saints proved to be the worst team. I think for Georgia Tech, it's going to be how often do you just go, I'm not doing it to be funny. I'm not doing it to be goofy. I heard them talk about it, the make-a-believes or the trickums. I don't want to get caught up in thinking that's the only way I can win. I think I can stand in the middle of the ring with you. But what are the decisions going to be that we actually talk about late on Friday night?
When you look at these two offenses, certainly Gunnar Stockton and Haynes King parallel one another. Something else that I think parallels one another in these two offenses, that perimeter passing game. Those bubble screens. Both teams like to run them. I will say, though, as of late, it seems like Georgia has been much more successful than Georgia Tech running some of those horizontal passing plays. I don't think that's going to work against this Georgia defense either. You have to show them something different, give them something to think about, or else, what we saw for the most part against Pitt, those screens not working, they're not going to work against the Dogs either.
Do you know who I also think has to show up? We talked about Nate Frazier. He fumbled the football a little bit, and it probably cost him carries. And then Jamal Haynes has not had, what's his biggest game this year? You've won a lot of games, but I don't remember Jamal Haynes ever taking over a game. If you're going to do it at 23 years old, as it's starting to wind down, I thought he was going to be a better football player this year. I did. I thought he was going to have more of everything, more yards, more touchdowns. He was going to be the guy that maybe helps protect Haynes King from getting his ass kicked every week because you can't key on him. He really hasn't had that type of year. Again, if you're going to show up, this would be a nice one to show up in.
Well, you better believe that Georgia also saw what Pitt did defensively, getting after it. Those blitzes, and Georgia Tech having a hard time adjusting to those blitzes. I'm going to guess that Glenn Schumann saw that. I'm going to guess that Glenn Schumann is learning and scheming from what he saw, and based on what he saw, putting together a package for Friday afternoon.
My guess is it's 3 weeks, but Georgia's also gotten better at it. We had talked about for a good half dozen games. What goes on, man? I know you don't have the talent of the guys who got drafted, but you don't hit quarterbacks. You don't sack quarterbacks. You don't make life difficult behind the line of scrimmage. They've actually gotten better at it the last few weeks.
And believe me, I'm really not trying to be a jerk. I think Georgia Tech fans would agree. The only thing, I shouldn't say the only thing, the main thing that Georgia, I believe, has going for them in this game is the fact that it's a rivalry game. And sometimes in rivalry games, nothing makes sense. So the chaos of the rivalry game, because this defense, they've shown nothing. Now, look, they were never a dominant defense. They were an opportunistic defense at times this year. And now they're just a bad defense.
Well, and it also tells you if you have a chance to get a pick, you better do it. If you have a chance to make a stop, turn them over on downs, you better do it. If you have a chance, quite honestly, this is the other thing. If you get a return or two, and while you might not score the touchdown, are you punting inside the 15? Make them go further. You do not want to be playing a game where you have no return yards. Fair catch at the 8. 3 and out. They got the football at the 45. That's short field is not your friend, which is, again, the decision-making of do you go for it or do you punt? Do you go for it or do you kick a field goal? This could at certain points be, please, we're not good enough to have a 55-yard field. We got to make it an 85-yard field.
And Haynes King has to be Superman like he was last year when he accounted for 5 touchdowns, and we talked about it being personal for Kirby Smart. 42 points the Dogs gave up against Georgia Tech last year, 563 yards of offense in that 8 overtime game, second most ever by a Kirby Smart defense at Georgia. So even though this defense, I'm talking about Texas, struggled.
8 overtimes. Aren't we supposed to grade on a curve?
I think, though, Chris, it's a condensed field at that point. And I don't know if Kirby's going to use that as an excuse either. Here's Kirby yesterday talking about Haynes King.
Just look at the numbers, right? Like, anytime you have a quarterback that has the experience he has, I mean, I don't know if he's played 5 years, 6 years, I don't know what it is, but he's extremely experienced, extremely tough. Like, people understand how fast this guy is. Like, he can run. And he was a great athlete in high school, track guy. I mean, the stories are all over of his success and his stories of where he's been and the injuries he's been through. And you see the hits he takes. I mean, he just gets stronger with each hit. So he's extremely valuable in terms of what they do and what they ask him to do. And he's hard to defend on all levels. Throwing the ball. I mean, people think, well, he doesn't throw the ball. He throws the ball really well, and he's really efficient.
I asked you a month ago. He's going to get an opportunity, I think, to be in NFL camp. I was going to say this for later. Can I have a vision of maybe, could he do the Taysom Hill thing if somebody in the NFL wants another Taysom Hill?
I don't see any reason as to why he can't.
And Taysom Hill made a lot of money. Now, look, I don't know why there aren't a couple of more Taysom Hills, because when he was younger and healthy, Taysom Hill is a pain in the ass to get ready for.
Ask the Falcons.
Yeah.
Aside from Sunday, he's murdered them over the years.
And why can't Haynes King, at a minimum, be a guy who, like Taysom Hill, you go, he likes contact. I ain't afraid to line him up. I'll put him in shotgun. I'll put him under center. I'll roll him out. I'll send him out. I'll put him in motion. Looks like an athlete. Probably can catch the football. He's dangerous when he's on the field. It hit me the other day, and I said, why didn't we bring this up? Well, now I'm bringing it up. Because if I'm going to ask if he has a chance to be in the NFL, did I not maybe see the guy who you go, who do you want to be, or who could you be in the NFL? I could be Taysom Hill.
And Kirby talks about maybe trying to avoid with his quarterback what Haynes King at times has been unable to avoid. We'll get to that in just a second, but personal. We use that term. It's personal for both coaches, and that embrace at the end of the 8 overtime game last year would indicate that. Kirby talked about that.
I would agree with it. It was an intense game, and there was a lot of back and forth. I've never been a part of a game where there was, a one play come 14 times or whatever it was, and that makes things tough, and you're going back and forth, things like that. But coaches are human too, and there's a respect level for people that do this business and do this profession, and there's a lot of respect for the toughness they play with.
I don't know if you know,
It's not always there, though, that respect level. We've seen it. The respect level is clearly there. They're not just saying it, Brent Key and Kirby Smart.
No, I've watched guys who go for buckets and axes, and all of a sudden you go, I don't like you. I don't like you before the game. I don't like you during the game.
That's genuine right there, that respect they have for one another.
I uncovered some audio. I really did at the end of the game. And I believe it was, ain't going to be no rematch. Don't want one. And then they were like, oh, yeah, we got to play again next year. Sorry. So it was really touching as they were just basically fell into each other's arms.
That's a Rocky reference. That's the end of the fight in Rocky 1.
Well, there was going to be a rematch because Rocky won Best Picture, and they realized there was more money in fighting again. Instead of killing him, Rocky was going to die. That's a real true story. Rocky was going to die at the end of the first one. They were just like, no, let's put him in the hospital for a couple of weeks. We'll make sure he really can't read very well.
You've got a dull skull, Stallion. That's how Rocky 2 began. It's Apollo and Rocky in the hospital. You're the luckiest man on the earth. As Rocky looks at his wife, Adrian, and says, I look lucky?
Yeah. All of a sudden, ain't going to be no rematch. Was like, hey, man, Apollo Creed started to hear what the world was telling you. That was before social media. You carried him. What was going on?
Getting letters sent to his house. People insulting his kids at school. That's neither here nor there. Here is Kirby Smart.
By the way, that might have been the most fun I just had for about a minute and a half in a while.
So Mickey tried to protect Rocky. Is Kirby Smart trying to protect his quarterback, Gunnar Stockton?
Yeah, I don't like reining anybody in if it's beneficial to their play style in terms of toughness and doing the things you need to do. I don't know what similarities they have because I don't know Haynes well enough to know that. I know the play he puts out and the product he puts out and the production he's put out has really been incredible for what he's been able to do and the toughness and the durability he's done it with. That's been similar for Gunnar. He just hasn't done it as long as Haynes has.
Now, is this a fair way to describe the two? They're both Cowboys. But I think that Gunnar Stockton, I don't mean this in a bad way.
Go ahead.
I think Gunnar Stockton's more of a humble cowboy. I think Haynes King is more of a cowboy that doesn't mind the spotlight on him. Is that a fair way to describe it?
You're saying his belt buckle is a little bit bigger than
Yes,
Gunnar
and I'm not
Stockton.
saying that to be disrespectful.
No, I think
I
you're
just think
playing personality.
Haynes is a little more outgoing.
I think you're playing
The
personality.
way that Haynes King talks to Brent Key, I don't think Gunnar Stockton would ever talk that way to Kirby Smart. I don't think.
I also saw Haynes King, and I asked Brent about it 2 weeks ago. I said, I saw him jawing back at a guy. He goes, oh, no, he does it. The camera hasn't caught him. So, yeah, I do think his belt buckle might be a little bit bigger. Let's just go with that analogy.
It's not a bad thing.
Oh, God, no. Listen, I don't want to take the you-know-what out of you. I'm not looking to change who you are, especially in a game like this, in a week like this.
I think you'll get more gems out of Haynes King than Gunnar Stockton when you have a conversation. Now, if you have an off-the-record conversation, maybe it's a little bit different. But Gunnar, you've seen him. We've talked to him. He's not going to give you anything. There's going to be a lot of short answers. That's just the way it's going to be. He didn't even speak last week. Kirby gave him the weekend off. You don't have to talk to the media today.
Yeah, like he played a quarter, and it was like, okay, let's talk to Gunnar. No, that's not really going to happen.
Everything okay? Yeah, everything's all right. We just decided to give him, Charlotte. We decided to give him the weekend off.
It's
just
like
go home, take a shower, and relax.
It's like that first quarter never happened. He didn't play.
Now, here are the scenarios. If Texas A&M and Alabama both lose, and Ole Miss beats Mississippi State on Friday, Georgia would face Ole Miss in the SEC championship.
Not completely out of line.
Now, if Texas A&M, Alabama, and Ole Miss all lose this weekend, Georgia would face Texas A&M in the SEC championship game.
Okay.
So those are the scenarios to think about as a Georgia fan.
My guess is we had said the SMU thing might be the most difficult one for the ACC stuff, them losing. I don't think it's far-fetched. Look, Alabama's not supposed to lose to Auburn, and they got a whole set of problems
Again,
if it actually does happen.
Rivalry games.
I know.
Stranger things have happened.
Tech was not supposed to beat Georgia last year, and while they didn't, they certainly pushed them. And if you get pushed, what's going to happen? I don't know. Ball bounces funny. Your guy misses a kick. You get tripped up as you're running down the... Look, how many times have we seen that guy step out of bounds at the 7? We saw Haynes King. He doesn't go to the pylon. He gets tackled. 3 plays later, boom.
Pick 6.
Yeah. So, you better make... It does feel like if you're going to be in one of these games, don't start stacking up the plays that could have been.
No, especially if you're Georgia Tech.